What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So for this horror news update, we are back at the Terrifier news. Terrifier 4, Damien Leone promises Art's backstory in the first 15 minutes. Now, we knew we were getting a backstory. We don't still know to the extent, but I'm a little concerned that if we're only getting it in the first 15 minutes. So if you didn't know, which I'm surprised if you're watching this that you don't know, Terrifier 3 was a massive financial success. And I think for the most part, it was a success for the fans. I'm not one of those. I'm not one of those fans where I felt it was a massive success. Did I think that the film had its high points and low points? Absolutely. Every film has that. Is it my favorite thus far, the franchise? No, not by any means. Terrifier 2 is still my favorite of the franchise. I've said this before, covering off on Terrifier, the films. We did actually one of the very first videos I ever did for this channel. I think it was the first or second video I ever did for this channel when I was still very much green into the process of putting videos together. I think it was like almost an hour long where we went through a lot of video, just nothing but Terrifier, and we went through a lot of stuff. I don't recommend going back and watching it. It was like I said, it was my very first videos I ever did. Now, I've said this before about Terrifier 3, and I'll continue to say it. I've said this before about just horror movies in general. For me, if it is not a horror comedy, a black comedy, dark comedy, it shouldn't have comedy. That's just my opinion. Terrifier 3, I didn't go into it thinking, oh, this is gonna have humor and comedy, and it did. When I look back at Terrifier 1 and 2, especially 2, there was some bits of comedy in it. Very small bits, but it made sense and it fit. Especially when he's in the Halloween store, the costume store, and he walks up with the little like horn and squeaks it in her ear and she jumps. I think that has some humor aspects to it, but it also has a higher level of creepiness to it just based on her reaction. Now, Terrifier 3, though, had a lot more, in my opinion, forced humor that wasn't necessary. Wasn't what I expected. And I also thought Terrifier 3, for where we were at in the franchise, and a lot of people have said this, even Damien's comment on this, which is a battle he says he's been facing and will continue to face even going into the fourth film, is you have the fans who want all the gore and no story, but then you want the fans who want the story and no gore. How do you find that balance? I'm hoping we find that balance because we know, he's even said this, Terrifier 4 is going to be the final film. Now, do I believe that? To an extent, I do. I think if this is another huge financial success, there's always going to be room for a fifth film. I think, and especially if the fans want it. Now, will we get it as quickly? Maybe not. Will we get spin-offs beforehand? Possibly. But Terrifier 5, I don't think that's going to happen nearly as quickly as many people will want it to happen after this film. Now, to get back to the backstory, he said we were going to get backstory in this fourth film when he first mentioned Terrifier 4. Never mentioned how much backstory. I was excited. I was like, great, we're finally going to get some backstory as to Art the Clown. But if we're only going to get it in the first 15 minutes, and I could be taking that for face value, to me, that's not enough time to tell a backstory on any level. So let's jump into the article details. We have 2 articles here. We'll jump to the second one, cherry pick it, see if there's anything new to learn from that one. Otherwise, we'll stick to this main one here. So we've seen Art the Clown do a whole lot of killing across 3 movies in Damien Leone's gory Terrifier franchise, but we still know very little about the character and how he came to be the nightmare he is today. Leone had recently promised that the upcoming Terrifier 4, however, will finally reveal Art's origins. And that's quoted there, so we covered that previously, and I was glad to see that finally we'll see that. And he's doubling down that promise this week. In a quick video chat with popular content creator Chris Parker, 3C Films over on YouTube, Leone reveals that Terrifier 4 will dish out Art's backstory right at the beginning of the film. Quote, I know this word gets used a lot, but it's going to be epic, Leone teases. It's not going to disappoint. You're going to get Art's backstory in the first 15 minutes of the film. We're going to come back to that. The interview with Leone was conducted at Texas Frightmare Weekend earlier this month, and you can check out Chris Parker's full coverage in the event of the video embedded below. We're not watching that video. The script for Terrifier 4 is underway and is shaping up to be the most epic, horrifying, thrilling, emotional, and satisfying conclusion to the Terrifier saga. So that Leone recently teased. So even there, he's saying again, this is the conclusion. So people should not be expecting a fifth film. David Howard Thornton and Lauren Lavera are expected to return as iconic villain Art the Clown and beloved final girl Sienna Shaw. I would expect them both to return, especially how the third film ended. It wouldn't make sense if one of them didn't return, or if neither of them returned. I don't know how you would continue with this current story. Then it just goes on to talk about when he launched the franchise, and that is it. So before we come back to this quote here that's bolded, we're going to jump over to the second article, see if there's anything new here. Nope. Talks about Chris Parker, talks about the interview. Only mentions here, he later said that he thinks that this will be the last entry in the franchise because he doesn't want it to wear out its welcome. We knew that as well. Although he also said that Terrifier 5 might be required to properly wrap up the story. I don't know. I don't think necessarily Terrifier 5 is going to be needed. I think if you can do Terrifier 4 right in the roughly hour and 45 minutes, almost 2 hours, I think you can wrap this story up. I'm not sure how much more this story can go on for. And then we got the historics about the franchise throughout this and Terrifier 3. So we're not covering all this. This is all information we've covered off before. So no need to talk about that. So going back to the previous article, as I mentioned, you're going to get Art's backstory in the first 15 minutes. I don't think 15 minutes is enough to give a backstory for a character that we've already gone through 3 films with no backstory, and now we're going into a 4th film. I'm not saying spend the entire hour, typical 90 minutes for a horror film to an hour 45 minutes. I'm not saying spend half of that. Maybe a good 30 to 40 minutes, maybe yeah. Almost half of that, maybe you do need to spend on the backstory, and maybe you don't just say here first 40 minutes backstory. Maybe as the current story is moving, the current timeline, there are some callbacks to certain things. We see some flashback scenes on the backstory, right, to tie everything together as to why he's doing what he's doing, or why he's come this far acting the way he's acting. I think that could easily be done, but we've gotten 3 films for a character. We're going to a 4th and potentially final film, and you're only going to give 15 minutes for a backstory on the character. I feel like that's going to be rushed, and I feel it's going to open up a lot more doors than close them as to questions that the fans will have as to wanting things to make sense. And again, I'm not trying to overanalyze this. It's a very gore-driven horror franchise. So again, I'm not trying to overanalyze this, but if you're going to tell the fans, I'm fine going to tell you his origin story, his backstory. I would hope that we would get more than 15 minutes of it. Otherwise, I feel like we're not necessarily going to get as much as we would like, and it's going to feel rushed and incomplete. So I'm hoping this changes. I'm hoping by the time the script is finalized and they move into production, it will be more than 15 minutes, maybe 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. And then the next hour and 15 minutes is spent in the current timeline, building off and closing out how Terrifier 3 ended. Because we know Sienna's cousin is in hell now. Art seems to have lost his powers. And last time we saw him was on the bus, right? After a long day. So I am looking forward to see how the story wraps up. I am hoping this is better than Terrifier 3, because again, Terrifier 3 for me is my least favorite of the franchise. I would go 2, 1, then 3. That would be my preference. That's my rating of the series thus far. If we get a lot, I think if he purposefully only does 15 minutes and opens up a lot of doors, getting the fans to talk more about the character, wanting to know more, then I think he sees that as an opportunity to do a 5th film to close out all those questions and, close all those doors, right? So anyways, that's going to do it for this horror news update for Terrifier 4, the latest on Terrifier 4. We're going to get some of Art's backstory, first 15 minutes of the film. Script is still in process. We don't have a date yet on when this will hit, and we still are under the understanding this will be the final film. Unless he feels by the time the script is done, filming is done, yep, we're gonna have to do a 5th film. Couldn't fit it all in. I hope they don't do a Terrifier 4 Part 1 and a Terrifier 4 Part 2. If you're gonna do that, then just do a Terrifier 4 and a Terrifier 5. There's no need to do a Part 1, Part 2. I don't think there is. Just do 2 different. Just call it Terrifier 5 in that case. So drop a comment in the comment section. Let us know what you think. Do you think 15 minutes is enough time to tell a backstory for a character like Art the Clown that's already had 3 films under his belt? I don't think it is, but let me know in the comment section. And if you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next one. Later.